to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start by, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. We are all present, and we will start off with public comment. Is there anyone here that has anything to comment on? Anyone at all? No, okay. Move right into appointments. We have 205 Sunset Lane driveway plan.
Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this because I'm a color. Anybody want a large copy?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I believe I left you a colored one last week, too.
Yep. Taking the driveway grade out if you want that to be easier.
I'm sorry? Oh,
It's the same he's got up there.
Same plan. So, as we presented last week, we are proposing a common driveway to serve the newly created Lot 2A and Lot 2B. On the left side of the plan is Robs Hill Road. On the bottom of the plan is Sunset Lane. We're proposing the common driveway to come in from Robs Hill Road. It'll come in with a quite wide entrance, as requested by the fire chief, and then which it'll immediately fork to the right to Lot 2B, and then it will continue on along the top of the ridge. The topography of the lot is a very steep slope from where we're proposing the driveway down towards Sunset Lane. So we're trying to take advantage of the least amount of impact to the area by coming in from Robs Hill Road along the top of the ridge, keeping all the mature vegetation and the steep slopes intact that are going down towards Sunset Lane. So then the driveway continues on to Lot 2A. The darker gray shaded area is an emergency vehicle turnaround, so any vehicles or delivery vehicles, emergency vehicles could easily turn around in there and come back out to Robs Hill Road in a forward manner. So as we had shown back during the A&R process, Lot 2A, it is feasible to build a driveway off of Sunset Lane for two vehicles. But as we mentioned with the Lake Shirley on the other side of Sunset Lane and the 100-foot buffer zone that crosses over Sunset Lane onto both of those lots, a driveway coming in from Sunset Lane would be completely within that buffer zone at the entrance, and would be sidestepping a very steep slope that has quite mature vegetation that we'd like to leave intact for the environmental part of it, as well as just safety issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to the chairman.
all right, very good, thank you. What do we have for questions or comments?
I just would like to understand this. Has the planning board done this before for a lot such as this?
Granted a common driveway not splitting the line or on a different road?
On a different road? I know that with a common drive, isn't there a requirement for a larger parcel if you were going to use a common drive?
There is, and they do have a larger parcel.
Okay, so
They're in-
3.12 acres
Correct.
meets the requirement.
It's a 40,000 square foot zoning district.
Okay,
So they're 3 times instead of 2 times.
okay.
I can't say that the planning board has or hasn't done a driveway similar to this. In the 4.5 years I've done it, we haven't done one like this. This is a distinct situation in that it's a corner lot. So I think the way to address it is the house on Lot 2A would have a Robs Hill Road address, most likely. The town is the one who assigns street addresses. So the house on the corner of, actually, they would probably both end up with Robs Hill Road addresses. The fire chief did look at it.
Do we have his comments?
His comments were addressed in the plan. I don't have a written, I have an email from him that says looks good. He did want, the original plan had a bit of a sharp hook in the entry, and I think that what you have is the original plan, and what Neil is showing you on the board is the amended plan. So there was as you came in the driveway, it was a hook to the left to get up onto 2A, and the fire chief was concerned about getting apparatus in there. And originally the driveway was shown as 12 feet. He said he'd like the mouth opened up and the curve straightened out so that it was easy to get apparatus in there, and he wanted it to be a minimum of 16 feet wide, both of which were done on the amended plan. And what he was indicating is that in most instances, Shirley is going to be coming up Robs Hill Road to get there, and Lunenburg is going to be coming down Sunset Lane. So it's kind of a race to see who gets there first, based on where this is in town.
Do we have a copy of the driveway coming from Sunset Lane?
I don't have the folder with it here. I don't know if it's still in your packet.
I think it is shown here.
Is it on that one?
I think it might be shown on that one.
No, that's a septic system.
No, that's the driveway. And what the fire chief said
Oh,
is that
okay.
with that driveway, they would have a harder time accessing the house because they'd be fighting hoses up that hill.
So this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So this driveway that they'd rather not build, if that was built, then this would not be required.
Correct.
And they could do whatever they wanted out back with agreement between the two property owners.
I mean, I think you get into some gray area, but potentially.
Well, it wouldn't open the planning board up for having set precedent as far as shared driveways and accessing a lot. I mean, this is two of the things that planning board looks at. Access from your own lot and common driveways. So there's two precedent being set with this one plan. Right?
Well, they have access to their lot.
That's part of the A&R process. We have to prove that, which we have.
Sure.
And now we're
So
proposing a
you've already
common driveway.
you've already gotten over the access conundrum because you signed the A&R.
Right. But they have access, but they're not accessing.
Correct, but the common driveway allows for that alteration of the use of frontage.
Right.
Through the language in it. The common driveway language doesn't prescribe that it needs to come from the same road, or it prescribes that it needs to split the lot line.
Right.
Or if a different solution is sought, two independent approvals, one through the planning board, one through the building commissioner, are sought. And that's the process that they're taking advantage of. And the board needs to find, I don't know the language off the top of my head, I think it's that there is no detriment or something to that effect with the alternate location, or that it's safe.
That's safe, it's environmentally safer.
It's less detrimental and it is more safe, but still doesn't meet the
My understanding is that these permits are dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
That's
I mean,
correct.
Each plan that's presented is clearly different than the next. This isn't as clear as, 200 feet of buffer, or this, that.
Correct. There
Most
is-
of
there-
the dimensional things that we run into. So I'm not an attorney, but I don't see this as setting a precedent, because we're never going to see another plan that's exactly like this.
I think we're going to be seeing more of these plans because most of the developable land with ease has been developed. We've got a lot of slopes, and I think we're going to be seeing more of this.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
I am concerned about the potential precedent, because this was an A&R lot that originally did not show the driveway. Now we are coming back and having a shared driveway. We haven't done this in the past. I do think it sets a precedent for a common driveway. And I understand the safety concerns. I've listened to what you said, but I am very concerned about the potential precedent that it sets.
We're simply allowing an easement, more or less, for someone to pass and repass over one's property to another property. That agreement is between the two property owners and not necessarily a legal issue on the town's end. For someone to grant permission for them to cross over their land to get
Right.
to another lot. So that's all handled through an easement.
I understand that.
Right, I know, but from day one, you've seemed very, I don't know what the right word is, but you've been, seems
Resistant.
to be resistant to it, yes.
Yes.
Be-
And
because-
the A and R plan, typically, we do not show driveways on A and R plans. So,
Correct,
We
but
showed
our
that it had
building,
access, we showed it had frontage and area. And then you asked for us to come back to show you that access was feasible, that there wasn't a wetland that we were pulling right into, or a steep ledge cliff. We have an esker of sand here which could be excavated quite easily to build that driveway coming in off of Sunset Lane. Now we're before you trying to plan the best and safest driveway to provide access to these homes. And we're here to the planning board to plan that out. And I think this plan is clearly showing the best access for those homes.
let me be clear, I was resistant, and I apologize for my voice, I had jaw surgery. I was resistant because of the comments of the building official, because he had concerns about the access to the lot. And in order to be an A&R plan, you have to have meaningful access to the lot. So when the original plan came forward and we had the letter from Gary Rhodes, that is why I was resistant.
And again,
So to be very clear,
Yeah.
had he not raised a concern, it would not have come up.
Okay.
But we had a letter from a town official stating he had concerns about whether or not this lot was truly accessible from Sunset Lane. And if it were not, it would not be an A&R plan.
correct.
And now we have before us a plan to allow an easement instead of accessing through the lot. And I believe that does set a precedent that for other properties that may have difficulty accessing a property and the only way they can access it is through an easement, I don't, that is not the intent of the bylaw.
No, and each time, well, the A&R showed stuff that didn't need to be on it, and then the second time he came back with the A&R, it came back with a more developed plan, separate from the A&R that we needed to sign. But it seemed like you're trying to skirt around, and it still doesn't say shared driveway. It says Sunset Lane driveway plan on our appointment. Doesn't say shared driveway, which is,
That's, I'll take the blame for that. That is not
Okay.
his fault. It should say common driveway, driveway plan. We had seen it before, and it is a common driveway.
No, I'm looking,
Oh, oh.
you're not looking at the same plan that I presented most recently to the
Which is
which clearly says in the title block, called a common driveway.
okay. No, that is our fault. So, I'm,
Adam, can we see that plan?
Yeah.
Then-
And to what it says, it doesn't give any standard. It says if such common driveway cannot be located as determined above,
Straighter, I guess.
a determination may be made by the planning board and building official for other acceptable locations.
So I'm confused. We're looking at a plan, so this is not a shared driveway. This one has a proposed driveway to the lot on Robb's Hill, and then the proposed driveway for the other lot is through this easement. So it is two separate driveways, correct?
There's one
One
entrance,
entrance, but they
and they
split.
immediately fork.
They
So in
split.
essence, they are shared for the immediate portion, and then they fork off. Whether it happens within 10 feet or 100 feet, it's the initial access off the road is shared. As wanted by the fire chief is to widen it out and make it as straight as possible, which we did.
I mean, in terms of precedent, I would say that they've proven that they do have access. It's not ideal, but they've proven they do have access, and that's why we granted
I'd
the
like to see that
A&R.
plan. I don't have that plan.
Well, that's the access to 2A, is that drawing. And
But it doesn't go, I'm not seeing it go to the
Don't
house.
look at the same plan, please. The most recent plan was submitted to
Okay.
Yeah.
the board. It has an engineer's stamp on it. Throw away all the other conceptual progress prints that were in advance.
what she was referring to
I'm looking for the
was,
driveway that is difficult and potentially, because of the slope, has a concern, but I'm looking for that plan.
yeah.
and I don't see
Which is
that.
on the conceptual plan that
Okay.
you have.
But that does not go all the way to the house.
No, it just provides
It
access
just
to the
shows,
lot.
it just shows it going down and then stopping.
There's no bylaw that says the driveway has to be at the house,
Yeah, it just has to provide access to
off
the
the
lot.
right-of-way,
And,
onto the property.
and my thought process is if I was presented a similar situation where you had two lots and one lot had viable frontage, but it was safer and better access to go through an adjoining lot, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be in favor of that time and time again. So I don't know that that necessarily sets a precedent if you're interpreting the bylaw and applying it to any given situation.
We have to agree to disagree.
I guess when I was talking about the history, I was talking about the resistance, not necessarily specifically the plan, but,
I just want to say, we weren't trying to slide anything through. Our original A and R plan showed an easement because we were planning in advance that
sure.
we were hoping to do a shared driveway of some sort. So we weren't trying to skirt around anything. We were being upfront from the very beginning. The board asked us to remove the easement until they saw a complete design showing what the common driveway would look like, and that's where we are at now.
Yeah, but I mean, can you see it from our point of view, where we're signing an A and R plan that clearly shows the intent not to follow the bylaw?
You didn't sign up an A and R plan that showed that intent.
We refused to, and you brought us back one that didn't show it right, but you also had a more developed plan. I'm just getting back to the resistance. It just seems that way, and whether or not you actually are, I'm not saying, and it's not a big deal. It's just that we are elected to enforce the bylaws that are written down.
Right.
And that is what we're describing to you, the ways that it does not meet the bylaws that are written down. There is a term here that says that we have discretion, which is good. And by these discussions, we're exercising our discretion, I think.
Understood.
And honestly, I think that if the driveway as shown on Sunset Lane was constructed, this would not even need to be before us. It's,
Right, but we're asking for an alternative option here, which makes it more accessible for emergency vehicles.
okay, and you're getting resistance. So I guess I'm asking, would it be a hardship for you to construct that driveway and not have to get this permission from us?
Would it be a hardship? Not necessarily, no, other than it may make the lot a little bit less viable.
What does anybody think about that idea?
I'm not in favor of this plan. I am concerned about the precedent that it sets. It's very clear. If such a common driveway cannot be located as determined above, which is not, a determination may be made by the planning board and building official for other acceptable locations. I understand that. And if the driveway were over to the side and it were, it basically says it needs to be split between the lots. This is,
Or another accessible location, which we have proven.
I have the bylaw in front of me.
Okay, well, we're talking the bylaw, and I'm just saying, the verbiage that I'm reading and I'm focusing on is that we have shown an alternative location that is more accessible.
And quite frankly, the proposed driveway that you show goes down into the lot, you're correct. I would have a hard time believing that someone's going to walk that slope from that driveway to that house. And you've got an interlocking concrete block retaining wall, because you can't, so basically they'd be
So your
walking
personal
fr-
interest is that you would want your driveway to go up to the door. Again, but to get an A and R plan signed, you just have to simply prove that you can get off the right-of-way with vehicles onto the property, which we have proven. So you haven't gotten yourself in trouble of creating a lot that is not meeting the A and R standards. We've proven that. Now we're just simply asking, is this common driveway a better alternative to access these homes? And that's what we were hoping you would see.
Well, I am not in favor,
I don't
and I
think
will
there's a
not approve
precedent
it.
set. mean, every site has unique features, every design is different, and there's common driveways in all sorts of towns that have unique circumstances, and it's for 2 homes, not for 4 or 5.
But it could potentially in the future be for 4 or 5.
No, you only can have 2 common driveway, you only can have 2
Without a
homes in
subdivision,
Lunenburg
okay.
on a common driveway. So you'll never get yourself into a point where you're creating a road. It's simply a driveway for 2 homes to access. It's not going to be considered anything else other than a private driveway for 2 homes.
There is some validity to what Paula was saying, though, they're not allowed to provide future access to potential.
Right,
additional-
Correct,
right.
potential lots. And the zoning
Right.
board recently heard a petition to put 4 homes on a common driveway, which they denied, based on the concern that it would create precedent that other lots would petition similarly.
So the zoning board was also concerned about setting precedent.
Well, they were concerned about setting precedent on upping the number of lots. I think, from my perspective, the board here is looking at and may issue alternate locations. It doesn't prescribe that those alternate locations need to be close to the lot line or offset. It just says an alternate location. And it doesn't allow you to increase the number of primary dwellings that the lots access, that are accessed by the common driveway. Only the physical location and based on access and safety is functionally the purpose.
What were the concerns of the fire chief?
About the original plan?
About the original plan?
So,
The width
I'll
and
come
shape.
over and show you, because it's easier to. So if you see here, originally the plan,
No, this one. It's this one, right?
his concern about this
About
was
this-
that there's a distance from the road to the house.
Exactly.
And getting equipment up there. Even if this driveway made it to the house,
Yes?
the fire department would still be dragging hoses up the hill. If this went all the way to the house, say, and you had 2 cars parked here, and the fire truck pulls up and pulls in here, or normally they're gonna pull right up in front of the house. They're still gonna go up the hill to fight the fire.
Right.
Whereas
There's a
here-
lot of houses in Lunenburg that are on a hill.
Right.
Correct. Here, they can drive right to here, and they're fighting from the same level.
You know, there are many, many homes, and I've been to many of them, on hills that the fire department can get to.
And he didn't say that it was a failure to have this driveway. He said this is preferable in that they're not climbing the hill to fight the fire.
Or they can drive, you know, climbing the hill because the driveway only goes, I don't have a scale here, but a very short distance into the lot, and it doesn't go to the home, obviously that's a concern, but that's a choice that this plan shows.
Correct.
So I am not in favor of this plan.
Well, just to kind of flavor that conversation, the garage floor elevation is 345 feet. The elevation of the driveway is 309 feet, which is roughly 35 feet. With 7-inch steps, that's 60 steps to go up that hill. So, you know, my interpretation of the situation is, I understand the thought process behind not setting a precedent, but in my mind, I can't think of a better situation that you would apply the bylaw for a common driveway because of the steep slope.
The discretionary clause in the bylaw.
Yeah, because if you look at the alternative, if you look at the viable access, you're putting a house 60 steps up the hill, which in my mind is a much bigger challenge for public safety, especially somebody needs to be carried out of the house on a stretcher. You're going down 60 stairs.
I can't disagree with that.
What better application can you think of to come up with putting a driveway over the top of the hill where you can drive right up to the house? Yeah.
That was well said, thank you.
I mean, if anybody could find a better application, I challenge you to do so. And if we're never going to apply this, then why do we have a bylaw that allows for variations for common driveways if we're always going to say you can't do it?
Very good point.
Because we had an A&R plan in which.
But the A&R
Let me-
process
let me-
is
let me-
done.
Can I finish, please? We had an A&R plan that the building official was concerned that the lot did not have meaningful frontage.
And they've
Moving,
proven that.
moving forward, I don't believe that that's meaningful frontage because of what you just said, is because of the realistic approach to this home from Sunset Lane to go up that steep slope, which is exactly the concern that the building official had. So moving forward, if we have a lot, this can happen constantly. If we have lots that are extremely difficult to access, and people have thought, well, I can't access it, so I can't get to my lot, we're going to have a plethora, potentially, of these that say, well, yeah, it would be too difficult to get to this lot, but if I go through the A&R process, I can go do a common driveway. That's not the intent of the bylaw.
That's, I don't see that as being what's represented with this particular plan. As far as the A&R process goes, they've proven that they can exit the right-of-way and park vehicles. That's all they need to prove. They don't need to prove that the driveway has to go all the way to the building or anything like that. They just have to be able to exit the street and park a vehicle, and they've proven that. So they get 2 lots. Whether you agree or disagree with how functional the lots are, how many steps, any of that, they get the lots. And then they have the ability to apply for a common driveway. And if they can demonstrate a good need for that, then that's what the process is for. And I think given the terrain in this particular site, I can't think of a better application of the bylaw, which is to say you have an extreme terrain here, and by granting a common driveway in this configuration, you negate a lot of those challenges. So,
May I ask one question, maybe Adam or someone knows, is, now, the A&R process, those specific laws are under Mass General Law, correct?
That's correct.
Adam? It's not a Lunenburg law. A&R plans are the Mass General Law, which went through that step, and now we're applying the Lunenburg zoning bylaws
Right.
according to the plan.
I
Okay.
don't think we really even need to be talking about A&R here at
No.
this, at this.
No, I'm just
Right, I mean,
going
we've already
back.
passed that point.
But the concern at the time, from the building official, was that this did not meet the A&R law because it did not have meaningful access.
yep.
So now we have a plan showing a very difficult to construct driveway with an interlocking concrete block retaining wall, with a max height of 6 feet. So I think he was correct in that, did it have meaningful access? And that is still a question in my mind.
but that's already been approved.
What's been approved? The
A&R.
A&R has been approved because he has the frontage. But now,
And demonstrated a
well,
driveway.
this is the first time I'm seeing the driveway.
It was discussed as part of the,
It was included as part of the A&R.
But that wasn't, but we asked to take it off because
No, the driveway on Sunset Lane was part of the discussion of the A&R, because in order to approve an A&R, it needs to be on a road, needs to have frontage, and it needs to have viable practicable access. So those 3 things are what qualifies an A&R, and once you sign the A&R, you've certified, the board, certifies it.
practicable access.
Correct, practical.
Off
So
of the
it-
right-of-way
it-
onto the land,
Pro-
not to the
practi-
house.
So
but off the-
practicable access, that's where I'm getting stuck.
Off of the
because
right-of-way
I
onto the land. It
understand
doesn't
that.
say, the
I
A&R says
understand
it doesn't
that.
have to be to
I-
the house.
But yet you're here saying it will make the property more sellable if we go this route, because it's really
Safer.
not as practicable.
As they were saying with the fire chief, it's safer.
But the idea of practicable access is settled because the A&R was signed.
Okay, so use your practicable access.
That's fine, but that's a function of the A&R.
All right.
Well, I would be inclined to approve this if this Sunset Lane driveway was actually proposed to be built. And it does say proposed driveway too, so that works for me,
In addition to
in
the,
addition to.
the other driveway.
That would negate us from having to accept or approve a shared driveway plan. They can go ahead and do the easement all they want. I don't think that has to come before planning, does it? An easement
Yes.
between two property owners?
You mean if they build this driveway and then they also do an addition, is that what you're saying?
We all know that it's already built.
No, it isn't.
No,
It is not built.
the shared driveway is, not this driveway.
Oh, right,
What,
yes.
what are you saying, Matt? Are you saying if they construct this driveway and then instead of using it, they want to do an easement? You're fine with
If-
that?
I'm fine with them constructing both driveways and using that driveway as their primary access. But this would allow us to approve this, let them build their two lots, and it would not open us up to the
So,
potential,
but they would build this driveway
that,
in addition?
in addition, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that I would be in favor of.
So
That
essentially.
you don't even need to vote on, I don't think, because the
Yeah,
secondary
they're
wouldn't, they,
circumventing the entire process.
Correct.
you're encouraging people
Which-
to,
If they want to choose another access, if they want to have two driveways and get an easement from their neighbor, that's fine, but this is the primary driveway.
I'm sorry, what's the circumvention?
I'm not the one who used the word circumvent.
Yeah. Well, if they build that driveway, they don't need our permission for anything because they have a driveway.
Exactly.
And whatever deal they work with their neighbor, this common driveway is no longer a common driveway, it's a second driveway, so this guy can grant an easement and they can just go right in. And because this driveway becomes just the driveway for this house and this driveway is for that house. And so if they build it out and grant an easement, then they don't need our approval, which.
It would be private. It would be a private
it'd be-
agreement.
Yeah,
So I
which begs the question, why don't we just approve it as it's presented? And, I mean, I feel like you're asking them to do a bunch of work inside the 100-foot buffer zone as a placeholder. I mean, because everybody knows that if you have a choice between the two driveways, you're gonna use the driveway up on the top of the esker. I just look at this as being the less invasive, less intrusive way to allow a private property owner to develop land that they can develop versus sending them back to the drawing board to do something.
What 100-foot buffer zone? I'm
The
sorry.
The
100-foot
lake.
buffer is right here.
Okay.
And I think
It's
to,
a
to
200,
to
should be.
Tanner's point, not that it would that if they were to create a shared access easement, this house wouldn't be able to get a driveway permit because they don't own that land without the approval of the planning board and the building commissioner.
Wait,
So-
say that
So
again?
the property owner on 2A would be able, if they built this driveway on Sunset,
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to build the driveway the way it's proposed on the plan on the easel, because they wouldn't be able to get a driveway permit. It would be up to the owner of the adjacent lot. So the likelihood of them having the wider opening would be lower. So-
why? The lot, the first lot, Lot 2B, could apply for a driveway permit showing that wider opening.
I guess in theory they could.
And then if they want to add on to it afterwards, that's up to them, but there's no reason they couldn't apply for a driveway permit with that wider access.
And especially, both of these lots are under the same ownership right now.
They are currently.
Right. So, and they will be until it's finished construction, I assume.
I don't know what their plans are.
Neither do I.
But if Lot 2B were to apply for a driveway permit, basically cutting off the leg that goes to the other property, but leaving the width as it's proposed, there's no reason they can't, at a later date, make an agreement for an easement.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that now that it's commonly owned, so it's one owner for both lots, so they can make all the applications, get all the permits, do all the construction, and sell them as need be. So the driveway permit would be for whatever they need to show on a plan to be able to sell it to separate owners.
Well, I think that would be difficult. I think that they would have to get 2 driveway permits. They would have to get the Sunset Lane permit, which is the property with the driveway with the retaining wall, and then they'd have to get the second permit for the 2B. So it would be 2 driveway permits, each on each lot. If your intent is, and I might be misunderstanding you, if your intent is that they build this driveway,
You're not misunderstanding me.
then it would be
I-
two driveway permits that would be issued.
Right, as it should be for 2 lots.
Exactly.
That's my whole,
Yeah, I agree.
Would that cause more confusion, though, for,
We don't assign street numbers, so that would be an agreement that you would have to have with public safety.
No, I mean, ultimately, that's going to be a Sunset Lane address if you put the driveway on Sunset Lane.
Right.
which may incur confusion for emergency
There's
responders.
no reason that they can't put a note in the file that access is through another lot, should they choose to go that route. They have lots about who has dogs and who has weapons, and so there's no reason they can't have a note about this particular property, about an easier access route.
right, which is what we were proposing, the common driveway, which goes back to the point of the bylaw saying, if the planning board sees that there is a more feasible access to keep confusion down, then, without having to put a note in the file, then one driveway serving 2 lots makes things more simple.
Is the concern that the access is on a different road?
No, my concern is that when we talk about meaningful, I can't remember exactly how you put it,
Practicable.
but practicable access, to me, the whole reason this plan is before us is because this access is not practicable. That's the reason this is before us. So in my opinion, if this was practicable access, then use it. If it's not practicable access, then you've circumvented the A&R process.
I think the confusion comes in when you look at how you're defining practicable access. And the way I look at it is they can provide access off of the right-of-way and meet the bylaws in terms of slope of the driveway, size of the driveway, and gain access to the land. And the common driveway approach just makes it more accessible and more convenient for the homeowner. In my opinion, it also makes it a lot safer. And as long as we don't require them to build the driveway on the Sunset Lane side for Lot 2A, I think it's far less invasive. And so, again, getting back to the bylaw
Sorry,
and realizing
I
that.
have to go. My brother-in-law's in critical condition.
Oh. So,
Well, I don't think we can do anything without her.
Does it have to be a unanimous vote?
because you need a majority of the full body.
So have you gotten signed off from everybody that you need to so far?
The fire chief, we sent the revised plans to him and haven't heard any further comments from his initial review.
No, he was okay with them as
building-
they were reviewed.
Yeah, the building
the building
commissioner was
commissioner.
holding off until you,
So have you gotten the issuance of a building permit?
no. We haven't applied for one.
Okay, so the bylaw also does state that the said driveway shall be located through the frontage. Such driveway should be permitted only after issuance of a building permit and shall relate to the design and construction standards.
Correct. Then the permitting is that we have a separate driveway permit, which is equivalent to a building permit, that is put in the file and shows the driveway design and is signed off by the DPW director, the fire chief, and the police chief. So without the ability to vary the location of the common driveway, Mr. Gorman can't apply for a driveway permit.
So, but that's not how I read this. Such driveway should be permitted only after issuance of a building permit.
Correct. So the driveway is permitted by the issuance of a permit.
So we approve it and then the building inspector permits it?
Correct. Because in the normal course of this section, he would be permitting the driveway here, theoretically.
Right.
So there's no need for this step, but until this step is sorted, he can't apply for the actual permit.
Are we even able to deliberate with two people?
Yeah, she's technically here.
Okay. I would love to let you speak, Mr. Chenis, but since you know what, you do have the right as a citizen to speak. I'm not sure that we would be taking public comment on an appointment.
That's up to you. You're the chair.
What do you think, Mr. Applicant? Mr. Gorman,
Oh,
sorry,
if the recused member speak as a citizen,
right?
I mean.
I'll leave it
we're-
up to you.
we're here That's fine with me.
Okay. We have the green light.
Ken Chenis, 715 Page Street, Lunenburg, Mass. I don't have an opinion. I just wanted to point out a couple of observations and ask some questions. So my first observation slash question is, I believe you referenced the zoning on this lot as a 1 acre requirement. I thought it was outlying and had a 2 acre requirement. So your answer to Ms. Bertram's question, I think, was inaccurate.
I'll have to look at that.
The second point that I wanted to, or the second question I had, was the A&R process. I thought the requirements for A&R did not dictate whether or not a lot was buildable for
It does
a
not.
house.
You are
It
correct.
just says that it's dividable and has access to the lot. So providing parking access to the lot does not necessarily mean providing parking access to a house, right? So I thought it just, there's no guarantee of being able to build a house on a lot if you do an A&R.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood those points correctly.
Thank you.
You're correct. It is in the outlying, but it also is not a reduced frontage lot. It's a,
But doesn't it need double the?
no,
the-
only if you use a reduced frontage. Common driveway can apply to full frontage lots.
Yeah, they both have full frontage.
Are you back?
I am back. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay, but I am back.
Could be good or bad, not sure which.
Well, I guess I'll leave it to the board to,
Is this a majority vote?
I think all three of us have.
It's a majority of the sitting board.
So it has to be unanimous?
Correct.
I am not in favor. If they want to build that lot and then seek a future easement from the neighbor, that's a decision between the two of them. But I believe in order to have access and practicable access, whether or not you can shift the house closer to the road, whether or not there's some adjustments that can be made, I'm not sure. I'm not a designer. But in my opinion, the access should be from Sunset Lane.
Your client still is in ownership of both lots. So I believe that gives them a little bit greater flexibility moving forward. My recommendation would be that you discuss the options with them, and,
I will.
I mean, you're welcome to ask for a vote, but it doesn't sound like it.
Well, Paula's clearly made known that I need all 3 votes, so I guess,
So there's no prejudice.
I mean,
here
we're not,
at
it's
all,
not a.
right?
No, I
public
mean,
hearing.
you can withdraw the application, you can return when we have more members after the election. That's your prerogative.
Okay, yeah, well, guess we'll withdraw this common driveway so that you don't have
You
to.
need to make the request, the board would have to accept it.
Okay.
So is that a
We'll
request to
request to
withdraw?
withdraw the common driveway application at this point.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the withdrawal of this application.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if there are other matters before us that you need all of us here,
Well, now that we've got Ken back for the other 2, we've
okay,
got 3.
unfortunately, I have to leave.
That's correct, right?
Can we
Yes.
quickly go through the minutes approval now that we have everybody here? Because one of the challenges that we have with minutes approval is not enough people.
Yes, that's correct.
Approve the minutes.
Yeah, so anything that has to happen,
I apologize. You've been very patient.
I apologize, my brother-in-law is nearing the end of his life and I need to go.
So we would have to go through to the February 11th minutes. Let's just do the ones that we need Paula for.
Yeah, let's just do the ones we need her for. Exactly.
So 211,
And
21119.
21119.
Ken can't vote on those.
Ken?
Can't.
Yep.
can't.
Yeah, only look at the ones that say cannot.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's,
181.
Yes.
yes. And the total meeting,
Okay, okay.
so what do you have in your hand?
So I've got 400 Electric Ave, Feb 11.
Okay.
That's,
Let's
that-
just do it. You have it in your hand.
I move that we approve 400 Electric Avenue.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you, just
That's all right.
since I know that there was, he can
So
vote
now
on it,
190 electric?
We
That
have,
is the meeting minutes, I believe.
I've got Feb 11,
Oh, that is,
151,
yeah.
181.
Yep.
The ones that we have to vote on.
That's Lemonster Shirley,
151, 181.
Yep, that's what he's got in his hand now. You're gonna have to make that motion, Tanner.
Yeah. Oh, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for February 11th, 151 to 181 Lemonster Shirley Road.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain?
So then we've got February 11th, the meeting.
The regular
Meeting
meeting.
minutes, yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for February 11th, 2019.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain?
And then we've got 380, 400.
Wait, that's,
That I
that's
can't.
the 11th,
Yeah.
not the 25th.
So Feb 25, 380, 400.
Yep.
Okay, these dates are just wrong. Can you correct that date to the 25th?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for February 25th
As amended.
as amended, 380, 400 Electric Ave.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Okay, so you can do this one.
And then 225, general minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the general minutes for February 25th, 2019,
Second?
Please amend. As amended.
Amended.
as amended.
As amended, second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Aye.
You know what?
Aye. So I think we got them all.
No, this is the general,
That's the general, but
but we just,
I think we have a duplicate here.
okay,
Oh, no, okay. Okay. Nothing, I read them incorrectly. So this one you did vote on. You voted on this one, even though you amended the other one. You signed the other one.
So we've already voted and approved it?
Yes.
This
one,
Are we all set?
I think so.
there's the 225-19 general minutes.
We just did those.
no,
Well,
no, no.
they don't have to be
225.
amended now. because-
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The right
Okay.
date.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the general minutes for 2/25/19.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Oh,
sorry.
abstain. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to fill you in, if I can beg for your tolerance for one more minute. I just want to tell you from the Open Space Committee, there's a parcel of land that consists of almost 259 acres on Northfield Road. The owner is interested in selling it to the town. It has been vetted by Open Space. It meets all of the criteria and is a very desirable piece of property. So we have formed a land acquisition team to pursue possible acquisition of that through the land grant program. And myself and Brandon have been appointed to that. There are still remaining members to be appointed to that. This is the similar type of thing that we did for the Lane property. Both Brandon and I served on that as well. So I will keep the board updated on where we are with that.
Very good. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
After much ado, so now we have an appointment for 39 Massachusetts Avenue waiver request. Please come up. Thank you for your patience.
I'm Jacqueline Nickel, my husband Barry Nickel. We're at 190 Chase Road. We're looking for a site plan waiver for 39 Mass Ave.
Perfect. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're...
Yeah, I'd love to. We started a coffee roasting business out of our home about 3 years ago. We purchased a 1-pound roaster and we're sectioned off our dining room. We received Board of Health approval. There's a couple of retailers in Lunenburg that carry our coffee in single-pound bags for home brew. We're looking to expand. We want to be able to offer a prepared cup of coffee as well as tea and espresso drinks as well. So we were looking for a site in Lunenburg because we want to stay in Lunenburg. And we found a great spot in 39 Mass Ave. It's a previous car dealership space, so there's plenty of parking. There's a proposed parking plan, and I have the plans if you need copies of it. There's 35 spaces proposed, as well as 23 out back for employee parking. So parking should not be an issue. There is a handicap accessible bathroom in the site, and it's going to require just a little bit of build-up to get us out. Do you have copies, or do you want?
I know we have copies. Yes. I am quite familiar with this site, and I think Ken is as well. You were here when we permitted the, yep.
For the previous owners?
I'm sorry?
The previous tenants?
Yes.
Excellent.
I think two
Well,
previous.
they've done two here, one for the bus storage and one for the Safe Light occupation.
So how different is this from what exists?
Well, when you approve Safe Light, the only things that were approved was this parking in front of the building in the light gray, because that was the only use. And the owner at the time said, this is the only use I have for right now. I'm currently using it interior as storage. I don't have any proposal for additional uses. And the board felt that that was adequate because there was plenty of additional parking in there for additional uses. And then most recently, when the D Bus Company came in front of you, who I believe are the current owners, they said, we really just want to get our buses someplace safe and we want to outline this bus parking. We don't have any current plans to occupy the additional space. We're going to get settled in there and then we're going to start looking to fill the space. And I was speaking to the applicant before the meeting, and she said when they spoke with the owners of the building, they had, indicated that they just spoke to the real estate agent about getting the listing going. So this is something that would have been coming on the horizon anyway, as they've apparently settled in and we're looking to occupy the space. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be taking the left side of the building with
That's
the
right.
garage door and the man door?
And we're actually going to subdivide it. We're not going to occupy the entire space.
Okay,
Yep.
so there's the potential for additional use in that space, and there is a small space on the other side of the building.
Okay, so the parking shown facilitates retail for this total square footage? So,
Would be restaurant usage,
Correct.
Uh,
how many tables do you have?
Part restaurant, part manufacturing, because we're going to be wholesaling a lot of the coffee roasting. But we have just an interior rough draft of around 35 seats.
35 seats?
Yep.
How many tables?
don't-
Or is
yeah.
it all bar seats?
It's mostly bar. I can share it with you if you'd like, but it's pretty rough.
So that would be 17 spaces.
we regulate by table, though.
No, we regulate by table or bar.
Oh, or bar,
One
or bar
space for
seat.
two
Okay.
bar seats.
Yes, yes.
If it
So
helps.
if you,
It's mostly,
Ample parking
Correct.
in this location for this use, and so
that's correct.
it's
Exactly.
really just a change of usage. Certainly complies with the parking requirements.
But then, as it was stated, they're planning on subleasing out a portion of it?
that's right.
So then that would also be coming back.
Correct, but that also can be a moving target in so much as if they're going to subdivide the space and the person who occupies the additional space, I'm going to use round numbers because it's easy. Let's say there's 2,000 square feet and they take 1,000 of it. So there's 1,000 square feet left. 1,000 square feet of retail requires 3,000 square feet of parking. But if that retail space is, we'll use cell phone store because it's easy, and they only have a sales floor of 300 square feet, and they use 700 square feet for storage and office, they're only required to have then 900 square feet of parking. So it's going to be wholly dependent on what type of use is in there. If it were office or personal service, then we get into a different set of calculations.
But, I mean, if they subdivide and another business goes in, they have to come before us anyway.
That's correct. That's what I'm saying. We can't look at this and say
Our
in
focus here should be on this.
Yes.
specific-
because there's
I
so
was-
much empty space. That's correct.
I was just asking the question to provide the applicant with the information that you may want to keep that in mind when you're considering potential sublets.
Absolutely. And our intention is hopefully to scale up and occupy that space as well at a later date. There's really no room for a front entrance because the way that it is set up right now, there's a door and a garage that we're occupying. So the egress into the other space is through the back. So I highly doubt that a retail is going to come before you. So it's probably going to be like an office space or some other kind of leasing. And personally, I'd rather occupy the space and expand if all goes well.
Sure. Now, for the unforeseen consequences, when we permitted Asian way back when, we didn't have regulations for the takeout, and that was one of the one of the issues that we had. So currently, they're storing buses there.
Actually, luxury cars.
But we're gonna be having traffic and people and in and out, probably a lot more than buses. Just something to think about, if that brings anything else to mind. I mean, I think this is a great use and a new
Yeah,
business and.
I know this
all for
area
it.
on Mass Ave, I don't think it'll be a problem with the traffic inflow and outflow. It's a coffee shop, right? So, I mean, you look at the traffic inflow and outflows of other coffee shops on Mass Ave, I don't think it poses a big concern.
Yes. All right.
I'm personally okay with it, getting the waiver.
Any
Yeah.
further discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the waiver for 39 Massachusetts Avenue as presented.
Second?
Excellent. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Welcome.
We'll have to
Best
stop
of
you
luck.
from drinking the competitor's coffee.
Looking forward to some coffee.
Excellent. And then now we have 10 Mass Ave waiver request.
Can I use this?
Sure. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Joshua Herrera, and my daughter Carol is Vargas. We are actually looking to open a retail pet store on 10 Mass Ave in Lunenburg. We've been in business for about 10 years online, and we're looking to open a retail place to offer the services to the town of Lunenburg.
Are you residents of Lunenburg?
I am from Leominster, Brockton.
Okay. They're not required to state their address if they're not in a different town, right?
And as the applicant, they're not
Okay.
required to state their
Okay,
their
perfect.
residential address.
Sounds good. Want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. The place is located on 10 Mass Avenue here in Lunenburg. It used to be the old Fun and Stuff rental, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. After speaking with Mr. Bernie, there was an issue that might be presented before the board regarding the parking spaces. We went back to the owner, Lance, and looked at the parking lot and provided the explanation on one of the small blueprints regarding parkings. There's a total of building that I'm looking to open the business. It's about 1,337 square feet. It's also that's not including the storage room, and that includes about 21 parking spaces available, 9 by 20. And then the building number 2, which is the building next door, I believe they're a smoke shop. They have about 2,037 square feet and 38 parking is available for a total of 59, which accommodates exactly what we need for parking spaces for both businesses.
So, and just for a point of clarity, first of all, thank you for your service.
You're very welcome, Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, are you looking to occupy both buildings for the pet store?
Negative.
Just
The
building-
one on 10 Mass Ave where the fun stuff used to be, but we have explained here to make sure there was accommodation for both businesses without any interruption on either side.
Okay, so building 2 is gonna be current existing use?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and building 1 is what you're looking to accommodate your own parking, and you presented the parking for both buildings to make sure that we understood that building 2's parking is still gonna be covered even after you.
That's correct.
occupy Building 1. All right, cool.
Correct. In meeting with the applicant, we discussed it, and where this site differs from what we saw at 39 is there's an existing business that occupies the entire remainder of the site, and I anticipated the board may wish to ensure that there was parking to service both buildings, especially in light of the fact that the building at 8 Mass Ave, which is Building 2, we had seen 2 or 3 years ago, and that question about the totality of the site had come up at that time, based on how tight the building is to the street.
Yeah, because that varies with different uses. So on, based on the square footage of your sales floor, how many spots do they actually need by the bylaw?
So if it's a 1,300 square foot sales floor,
Is
you
it
need,
the whole, you using the whole building as your sales floor?
well, the building's 2,700 square
Oh,
feet.
okay, okay.
So it would
You
be,
have 1337 square feet of,
It's,
For the, yes.
okay,
he'd need 3,900 square feet of parking area,
okay.
which functionally comes out to about 21, 22 spaces, depending on how you calculate in the area behind the spaces, because spaces are about 200 square feet, give or take. So, I would say 20 to 22 spaces is a reasonable amount of required spaces.
Just as a point of order, I understood our parking requirements to specify 300 square feet per space, and that included the maneuvering aisle.
Correct.
Okay, so
So it's one. No, our parking design says 180 square feet, which is 9 by 20 or 10 by 18.
Has it changed since the
Yes.
school?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But the calculation says 1 square foot of retail floor area requires 3 square feet of exterior ground area. And this is what we ran into with the gas station at 400 Electric, was how do we calculate that ground area? And looking at the definitions, driveway is only the area accessible from the street into the lot, not the maneuvering aisles within the lot. That's all considered part of the parking area. So these spaces here and this whole area can be calculated to equal that. There's an incredible amount of pavement out there. If he were to spend the money and hire an engineer, I have no doubt that they would come back and say we have more than enough parking area, pavement area. And what I asked him to do was go through the exercise of scaling out parking spaces to identify where they could be so the board could visualize that there is adequate parking. You may recall from the last time that we reviewed this space, the entire rear of the Long Building was prohibited from parking adjacent to it because there were uses, one being fun stuff and one being the antique shop that required use of those bay doors.
Right.
Now the gentleman who owns the smoke shop has taken over that entire building, does not need access to those bay doors in the same way, more for product delivery. So parking in that area wouldn't be a burdensome issue for him. So it opens up and almost doubles the amount of parking that they could have back there because they have the area along the rear of the lot as well as the area along the rear of the building.
Not to be a wet blanket, but I do recall when we were discussing the parking over here that there was a setback requirement from the road,
20 feet from the property line.
and it looks like they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
And that's the property line?
Yes. So it would probably be, those two spaces would violate that front property line.
So we just need to clarify that they need to stay, what was it, 20 feet, 25 feet? I forget what it was.
Yeah, and I think that,
I think it was 20.
I mean, the board could look at it several different ways. Currently, they're parking here and have been for a period of time.
But it's fenced, right?
Correct. Well,
Fence is gonna
and I don't want to speak for the applicant, but my understanding was there is not going to be any significant change to the exterior or the site.
That's correct.
Outside of cosmetic and signage. So they would be reusing existing spaces that are there.
Right.
That probably pre-exist the requirement for the setback.
Yep.
Whereas the spaces in front of the building were new spaces at the time the board last reviewed it, that hadn't formally existed previously.
Right, they weren't striped.
Again, I think that, you know, and this didn't come up the last time, but this is something the board has historically looked at as we have a number of buildings, especially along this stretch of Mass Ave, that are pre-existing, have been businesses of a variety of different uses over the years, and that reoccupying them and encouraging business to come to town and locate is something the board is generally supportive of.
In favor of.
And yes, and looking to exercise what they can, when they can, in a reasonable way to encourage that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I had
Even
somebody.
if they had to restructure the parking in that spot, I mean, you could fit a ton of spaces in there.
Yeah,
Because you could park all along this building, too.
That's correct. There's more space towards the back that
Yeah.
Mr. Lance did not include in there.
There's lots more parking here than is indicated by these lines that are potentially too close to Pleasant Street.
and I think if we recall, the owner of Fun Stuff at the time was storing several large trailers in the
Yeah, he's
rear,
got big
full
trailers
of
back there.
equipment
That's what- that's what
or
the pictures show.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you know.
Yeah, okay.
Interestingly enough, somebody had come into my office and said that someone had told them a story that their parents used to take the dog to this building for veterinary care as a child. So it's kind of coming full circle.
That was Fitzgerald's, it was over here.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I was that child.
Okay, so this is, again, just a, coming before us as a change in use
Correct.
and ensure that it meets the parking requirements, which I don't think there's any issue there. Is there anything else that has to be done when, with the change of use, is there any pet grooming that's taking place? Or is it
No.
just a pet store?
Just a pet store.
So there's no special
Nope.
requirements around drainage or anything like that? Yeah, I'm definitely okay with this one, too.
Now, just for your information, I believe they're going to be doing the bridge replacement on Pleasant Street
Yes.
fairly soon. So I believe they're
I
going to.
don't know what the timing looks like,
They're
but
probably going to be closing Pleasant Street
Okay.
for a short period of time.
It shouldn't be a problem.
Probably will not impact you.
I think the people it's going to impact the most are the people who are just on the other side of the bridge.
Exactly. Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the waiver for 10 Massachusetts Avenue as presented.
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Full panel. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Businesses tonight. Excellent.
Economic development.
we
Isn't
go.
that on our agenda?
It's
We're
becoming-
winning.
It's a reality. Okay. All right. That is interesting. And I'm glad the coffee roaster found the other spot. All right. All the fun stuff's done.
Everything's done?
No, no, no. No, that's
Is
just,
there something specific you're here for?
Do I have anything?
Yeah, is there something specific that you are here for?
Well, last week, my wife and I were watching
come on up and speak to us.
board, and
Sir, I'm sorry. For the viewers at home.
we thought we heard something about some kind of discussion that was going to ensue about a number of parcels of land, I think maybe on Howard Street? Or am I thinking about something else?
There is
Development on
something.
Howard Street.
There is a development on Howard Street that will be coming forward in the future.
Yeah,
Oh,
what is that scheduled
okay,
for? Because
so it
they
isn't
submitted
tonight.
their plans.
It looks like it's probably going to be on the 29th of April.
29th of April.
No.
So, yeah, I know, you're talking about the development that's bringing back a new
O'Brien's?
set of revised plans. O'Brien's, correct.
But that's in April.
29th of April, you said?
Correct.
Scheduled? Yeah.
That's what we're,
So I just got the date wrong then,
You're early.
a couple of months.
Early's better than late.
no, you're,
Oh, no, wait,
It is
Couple weeks.
couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Just a couple weeks early.
couple weeks, all right, so it's the next one.
No,
Oh, it's the one.
2 in the
after.
future, 3 weeks away,
All right, 3 weeks.
April 29th. Do you live within 500 feet of the property?
Yeah, in fact, I still have a case going about the land, my land.
Okay, if you're within 500 feet of the property, you'll get a letter in the mail.
Oh, okay, I haven't gotten it.
We haven't sent it
Haven't
yet.
advertised it yet.
Okay,
You're ahead of us.
Yes.
yeah, well, it's been an ongoing thing. It started really in 2008. And I started my case in, I think it was 2013. So we're still going and, well, we haven't gotten to signing anything yet, but hopefully it's getting close. So I wanted to, just a matter of getting the wrong date. Okay.
Whereabouts on Howard Street are you located?
396. I'm the
396.
one house next to, I'm surrounded by all of the land.
Okay,
It's right next to the two houses that used to belong with the farm.
okay.
Then you'll definitely get notice.
Pardon?
You'll definitely get a letter
Okay,
saying when it is.
yeah. Now what about other people? Well, 500 feet, yeah. I guess my neighbor across the street would get one too, and, yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you then.
All right. So we want to finish up the minutes approval?
Yeah, they got all messed up though.
So we have
Too many of them.
I think I started crossing out too soon.
Well, that's what happened is I saw the,
Next one is 2/11/19, 190 Electric Ave.
why don't you do committee reports so I can sort out what goes where?
All right, capital planning, we have not met. Budget season is not quite, we haven't met. So there's no report. Stormwater Task Force, we met last Monday. to discuss our contract for the upcoming year with our current consultants, to do our stormwater management plan and our notice of intent and our best management practices and the year one requirements. It looks like it's going to be not to exceed $60-something thousand. And we are also in discussion about transitioning from the stormwater task force to whatever comes next. There's gonna have to be some funding source, as it is an unfunded state mandate, federal mandate, federal then state. It's gonna cost. And there's permitted area, there's non-permitted area, and it's basically dealing with impervious areas contributing to our MS4, which is a municipal storm sewer system. The discussions that we've had are either enterprise fund or stormwater utility. And I'm sure that the citizens are not gonna be big fans of either. But it's something that we're facing. The Agricultural Commission, we are meeting on the third Thursday, which I believe is the 15th of this month. Not this coming Thursday, but Thursday after.
When do we usually start the center of
The
town?
farmer's market will begin in June.
First week of June, first weekend in June?
I want to say the 13th, but I'm not positive.
It's usually the middle to the end of June.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that's when stuff really starts popping.
Yeah, well, it's not uncommon that there really isn't a lot of produce available because that really haven't gotten into the season yet. And
Asparagus is early.
and to offset that, a lot of people are selling planted
Okay.
fruiting, like tomato plants or,
Yep.
And also, we do have one farm in town, First Farm Certified Organic.
Cool.
Yep, Snow Place Farm over on Goodrich.
Are they coming to market?
No, unfortunately, but they are a member of the Agricultural Commission, so that's a plus. And that's it. I'll have more to come.
MJTC meeting is coming up this coming Wednesday.
Okay. MRPC is,
MRPC met last Thursday. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend. And charter review, we've got all our stuff in the works and hopefully things go smoothly at town meeting.
yep, that draft is all over Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's lots of talk about
Yep.
All supportive, right?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
It's Facebook. Green Communities Task Force,
I think the rest of
Is-
those, we don't have anyone here
open
for.
space, land acquisition.
Paula did give a quick update on land acquisition.
She gave a quick update on open space and, So, at the last meeting, we did take a vote and we did vote to appoint Tanner to that position.
Correct, and I can explain what happened.
I think, okay, go ahead.
In the composition discussion of the committee at the Board of Selectmen, and in the memo as it was sent out, it wasn't clear that the member of the planning board would be the planning board's member of the open space. So there's two members of open space, one being a planning board member by proxy. So since Paula is the planning board's member on open space, she was automatically appointed by having that position, which wasn't clear in the way that it was described or originally sent out. So that was clarified by the town manager, and Tanner and Paula were both notified, so it
Yep.
wasn't a big surprise when Tanner didn't get to go to the big dance.
So is that why you guys aren't talking? No, just kidding.
So I also noticed that there are 2 vacancies on the open space,
There are.
and which spots are those?
There are two members at large,
2 members at large.
yes.
So,
I think
if you want, you can apply to that, member at large.
Well, I think the thing that was a little bit confusing from my part was if it wasn't clear when the committee was formed, whether that position was by proxy or through appointment from this board, and the board appointed somebody, why would you go back and clarify that it's by proxy?
That's a great question. I don't know.
So, I think it was more timing of the way things unfolded. You know, if we were approached to appoint somebody, we appointed somebody, and then after the fact, it was clarified that it was a different position. That to me
And perhaps it was
doesn't sit well, regardless of
Yeah.
who it is and roles and.
perhaps it was said correctly at the meeting and it was conveyed incorrectly, or I understood it incorrectly. So if I made the mistake, I will apologize. But if I read the memo I got and I remember it correctly, it did say a member of the planning board.
Yeah.
So
So there is no reason that you couldn't attend the meetings and
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can certainly apply for one of
wouldn't
the.
be a voting member, I suppose.
okay, so we want to go back and do the minutes.
If we could?
So this is 380-400 Electric Ave, hearing on February 11th. So Ken, you can vote on this because you signed your Mullen.
Yep, I move that we accept the minutes from
You've already signed it, so.
2/11/19, 380-400 Electric Ave.
As amended?
No, not amended because
Oh,
it's the, because,
as re-amended.
yeah,
As re-unamended. Very good.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
you've already signed it, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then 211, that
Now
was,
it's, yep, 211-190 Electric.
I move that we accept the 2/11/19, 190 Electric Ave minutes.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 225-190 Electric.
You skipped 2/11/400 Electric Ave. Oh, we
We already did
You
that.
already did that.
Gotcha. So 225-190 Electric Avenue?
Yes.
I move that we accept the minutes from 225-19, 190 Electric Avenue.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Then we have 225 town meeting warrant articles,
I move
public
that-
hearing.
I move that we accept the minutes from 225-19 town meeting warrant articles, public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then we have 325 minutes.
Move that we accept the minutes from 325-19.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now we'll have better attendance, so we don't have to have this many minutes on the agenda again.
All cleared up.
All right, so
So, just as a question, what happens for minutes approval when there's partial participation in the meeting? Do we go by like the percentage of the meeting that you attended? Because I know I left at 10:30 at one meeting and I was able to approve those minutes.
because you were there for the majority of
I
the
was
meeting.
there for the majority, but I
Yeah,
missed the last 30 minutes.
Correct.
So where do they draw that line on minutes approval?
it's kind of a gray area. I mean, if you attended 10 minutes of the meeting, we wouldn't ask you to vote. Where you attended a substantial majority, it would be like if you had to get up and use the bathroom.
Like
I mean,
we-
that's not going to discount you from being able to. And then the public hearings, when you signed the Mullen, you've read.
Yeah, I
so-
totally understand that, and, I did go back and read the minutes and so forth, but I was just curious where that line gets drawn, that's all.
So Paula will probably not,
Yeah, because she only was able.
Yeah,
to
she
be here for
probably
one
won't vote on
appointment, so-
tonight's meeting.
one
So
out
she
of
would
three.
end up being excluded from the
Correct.
next minutes.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, I guess we need to officially table the building reuse until Paula comes.
That's up to you. That's up to you folks. I mean, it's
I
it's something
move that we table
she
it
asked
because
for.
it is definitely a topic that Paula wanted to discuss.
And are we going to be able to discuss it at a future meeting that you're going to be in attendance at?
My next meeting that I'll be at is the May 13th, is that the right date?
That's what you said.
May 13th, and that will be my last meeting.
And I would caution that I believe a lot of these discussions were a prelude to town meeting and potential warrant articles or action on the building reuse, at least portions of it, at town meeting. I anticipate that these discussions will probably continue in perpetuity until the buildings are reused or disposed of in some manner. But I think a lot of what the basis and drive behind these discussions has been was focusing on preparing for town meeting and discussions at town meeting and having a reasonable sense of what's happening. And you gave us some notes on something at the last meeting, Ken, and I'm having a brain issue where I'm not remembering what it was. Was it the buildings?
I don't think it was building reuse,
It was solar.
solar. My recommendation was that we prioritized that, but
Yeah. So, you know, if you want to participate, you can send me your thoughts or something like that, and I can make them known to the group. If the board wants to try and do the discussion prior to town meeting to try and,
yeah, I think you can have the discussion about, I think we've talked about this enough that you guys probably already know my thoughts on building reuse.
And you will always be welcome.
but you know, if you wanted to put it on for the 22nd, it might be a long night, but you would at least have the potential then to push your way towards the selectmen on the 6th of May and say, oh, that's after town meeting though.
Why is the 22nd going to be a long night?
Oh, well, it's just more public hearings on articles.
Do you think that's gonna-
Potentially.
Do you think that's going to take a long time?
Potentially.
I think there's a potential for it. We'll see.
And what are we going to do about the meeting? I know we kind of jumped into meetings here, but what are we going to do about the meeting that doesn't correspond well to my travel arrangement, but bumps up against the time limits?
I think we're going to schedule it for the 29th
Okay.
and continue it to the 13th if necessary, and we'll send you some Mullen paperwork.
Okay.
So while we're at it, we might as well just add that to our upcoming meeting schedule.
Yes.
April
So
29th.
you got commitment from everybody else on the?
Yes, it
20th?
is.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And then we can get the advertising and notice going.
My apologies for my travel schedule.
So I guess then we
Trying to
should,
make a living?
Well, you won't have to put up with it much longer.
so I'm anxious to hear what Paula has to say. I'm wondering if we could get a synopsis from her and distributed through you, so we can at least
That's
be,
deliberation.
not if we don't respond.
No, it is, because I'm sharing the thoughts of one board member with the remainder of the board.
Discussion topics?
Yeah.
Still a violation of open meeting
Like,
law.
I can't send my opinion out to all of you. I can only send it to Adam.
If she sent me a document that said, the old primary school is located at 30 School Street, Town Hall is located at 17 Main Street, I can give you that because that's just facts.
Right.
There's no dispute of that. If she said, wow, Town Hall's a hot mess, we should just let it fall apart, that's an opinion and becomes
The
deliberation.
focus of my desired discussion revolves around Town Hall at 17 Main Street, primary school at 30 School Street. Would that be appropriate? Those are facts.
Well, and I'm not sure.
I think we already know what 5 buildings it revolves around.
Well, I'm not sure that it includes all 5, but okay. I guess,
And
do we have anything that we'd like to talk about? Because it is on the agenda and we're more than able to.
I mean, I think at this point, we kind of just need to let this thing play out at town meeting, because the warrant's been done and the articles are there, and
Right.
it's up to the townspeople to vote on these things, and we've had various different
There's very strong-
variations
Very strong
of,
opinions on both sides,
yeah, and
different sides, I should
There,
say.
there isn't a lot of in the middle. There's it's like a pentagon.
There's not a lot of consensus is what the problem is. So,
so, I mean, we can certainly have a discussion, but I think at this point in the game, we really need to see what pans out at town meeting, so.
are we expected to make any kind of recommendation or anything? Or-
No one has asked. I mean, it's not an article that we would normally make a
So
recommendation
we
on.
have no recommendation, and, I mean, we can certainly discuss it, but.
And,
it's-
you know, everybody's always welcome and encouraged to make their own individual opinion known
At town
at
meeting,
town meeting, as long as you're not trying to represent that it's the opinion of the
Board.
board.
correct.
So,
So director's items.
there you go.
Open space, there are 2 vacancies for at-large members. Ashley Millette, who was a member, has decided she no longer wishes to do it, and Rich Brockelman, who has been a stalwart of the open space ad hoc committee, I think has decided he'd like to have some time away from it. He's done an incredible amount of work and some incredible work with the committee on writing at least 2, if not 3, open space plans, and it's. I appreciate all the work that he's given the town, and I wish him well.
I would like to echo that sentiment. They have been, both of them have been great assets to the town.
Annual town meeting, May 4th. Be there, be square. It's going to be a power session, 9 a.m., Lunenburg Middle High School. Bring your own lunch. No one knows if there'll be lunch, and they won't take a lunch break because no one ever comes back. So snacks and beverages.
Doors won't be locked, but they might be.
But there might be big burly men standing there trying to keep you from leaving. Earth removal permitting, we'll be looking at that over the summer with parking and solar. I keep picking it up and keep getting distracted, so I'm hoping within, if not before town meeting, right after, to have that draft out to you with comments from my last meeting with the selectmen, which was a while ago. We talked at the last meeting about Attorney Costa's draft of the article for 5.6. And there was some discussion about including language for
A&R process.
yeah, for the A&R,
basically.
yes, the no subdivision for 5 years. The board said they wanted to think about whether they thought that was necessary or whether they wished to include it. So I guess my question is, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think what Attorney Costa drafted is a step in the right direction and
Yep.
addresses a concern that has been ongoing, so.
Yeah, it's forward-looking.
Yeah.
That's a place, it's not reactive, it's proactive.
Yep.
Maybe a little late in the game, but still, better late than never.
Best time to do it was 10 years ago.
Right.
Second best time is
Now.
Now.
And I think in reality the cluster, open space, whatever you want to call them nowadays, environmental subdivisions have changed quite a bit since this bylaw was written. And if the board was so inclined, it's something that we could move on to after we did solar and parking, to rewrite it in a way that was maybe more contemporary or more to what the board would be looking for.
And it's very coincidental, too, that I had gone to the CPTC training there at Holy Cross, and
They had
that
a
was
whole
one,
class on
that was
that,
one
yeah.
of the 3 that I taken. It was very interesting. I do have information that I brought back to distribute. I still haven't gotten to it. It was pretty good information. The proposals that they were coming up with were a little bit odd, because they were suggesting that you take a development that had, 29 lots and then changing it to one with 14, and numerous questions came up about, well, the developers aren't going to like that, they're not going to go for that. So they had some suggestions.
Well, a lot of it now also is making these a by right use instead of a special permit, so that the special permit would be for the conventional subdivision, and the bylaw forces people over a greater size. It's not a special permit, you do this, and if you want to do this traditional, you have to get a special permit. But that's, I guess, a discussion for another time.
Super. Now, I had sent you an email, and it was, I think, Thursday, so I'm not surprised that you didn't respond, but it was looking for an update on the 40B, our 10%.
Oh, yes.
0.5% per year housing production plan.
So we've created 0 since we created the housing production plan. because all of the ones that we had, well, I shouldn't say we've created zero, because Whalum Luxury was built.
I was gonna say, look,
But that doesn't count towards our creation. Because when you approve a 40B, that
that's
counts
when it
towards
counts.
creation, and you only get that first year out of it, and then it just becomes whatever, and then it increases your percentage. I'll have to get you the actual number. I want to say it's 7.85.
it's certainly not something I wanted off the top of your head.
It's in the sevens, including Whalum Luxury, and with the inclusion of the 70 units at Tri-Town, if and when they get built, I think it kicks us to like 9.4, 9.5, and we end up being like 13 units out from hitting 10. But that number will reset
So
in 5 years
is-
when the 2020 census is finally.
is that based on in construction, completed construction, or approved?
Yes.
Okay. so
It,
then-
it, it would be in construction or completed construction, because the only approved that we currently have, and I'm pretty sure this one is close to expiring if it hasn't already, is Hollis Hills. Because the SJC made their decision in the late winter, early spring of, 2016. And comprehensive permits have a 3-year life.
Yep.
So it would have had a tolling of that 3 years through the litigation, which would start again at the issuance. The only question I would have with that, and I haven't, even from DHCD, been able to get a solid answer, is whether that 3-year tolling was, or that 3 years was installed in the 2008 update, or if it existed in the comprehensive permit regulations prior to 2008, because the original Hollis Hills was filed in 2007. But no one has been able to give me a solid answer on whether it existed pre-2008.
I know the feeling.
So we're in the top 25%
Super.
of where we would need to be. But the decennial census changes that, because it changes population, it changes housing count. We've had significant growth. And so it would certainly have some potential to make that number look small.
Sure. All right, notice and communications have all been scanned to us,
Yes, they have.
and we
We went over the meeting schedule.
Yes.
You will notice, it's not on here, but you did receive an email about doing the board warrant articles, public hearings over on the 22nd. There was
That's on here.
but there's the board warrant articles, and there's there's also the citizen petition warrant articles. So
So that'll also be on the 22nd?
Correct.
Okay.
there's 3 zoning.
I thought there were 5.
There's 4. Is there 4? 3 or 4 zoning citizen petitions.
Okay.
One is Powell looking to adjust the map for their lots. One is to give the zoning board control over special permits for solar.
Yeah, I saw that.
One is to create a new use. I want to say that's all of the citizen petitions for zoning.
You sent them all around.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I just didn't want anyone in TV land to be.
Hmm?
I said I didn't want anyone in TV land to be wondering what we were talking about.
Okay, yeah.
So, ongoing items?
Solar energy, again, we'll need to have a conversation about what that looks like and which way the board wants to go with that. Off-street parking, I've started pulling together some thoughts on that, examples locally, some best practices nationally. There seems to be a trend towards reducing parking, I think a lot of that is more in areas where they're doing what they call new urbanism or walkable neighborhoods or actual urban areas, and looking at making parking a commodity to try and commodify it. I don't know that that's particularly something that we would be
Did we put
interested
in
in.
for a walkability study? Because I know we had,
We just had our first meeting with it today.
okay.
So they're going to be moving forward with it, mostly looking at Whalum and downtown or the village area to try and identify what the walkability is, sidewalk inventory, and make some recommendations over time. So I think they said fall is the drop dead date. So between now and fall, they would conduct this and have some reports back out to us.
Cool. Thank you.
Getting back to the solar, the article that's on the warrant to give the ZBA the special permit authority, we would still retain
Site plan approval.
site plan approval.
Correct.
And we'd also retain, like, the bylaw. Well, essentially, anybody can modify the bylaw,
Well,
but,
correct, yes. Yeah.
but theoretically, those bylaws would still primarily be under the jurisdiction of this board.
Yeah, the planning board is generally the one who is going to be the steward of updating and modifying the bylaw. I guess what I would say to the board in general is, depending on the outcome of that vote at town meeting, would probably color the way that you craft whatever new bylaw you come up with. So if town meeting resoundingly rejects the zoning board being the steward of solar special permits, I wouldn't recommend that the board then make a proposal the next year that gives the zoning board stewardship over special permits. And if the town meeting very narrowly votes one way or the other, I would say you have an avenue to make a judgment call amongst the board what you think is the appropriate way to do it. And if they resoundingly give the zoning board industry over those special permits, I would caution you against going and trying to modify the bylaw and take it back to the planning board the next year without some thought or discussion on how you would wish to approach that. But ultimately, yeah, you're still the stewards and the ones who would propose alterations to the bylaw.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's some significant structural changes that could be made to that bylaw, regardless of who implements it, that could make it I think more
Better.
workable and,
Clearer.
yeah, clear and I think would meet what I think we hear from people who come to those hearings and say, this is what my concern is, or this is what I don't like, and just make it a little bit easier to implement.
I just feel like that it puts things in kind of a very odd, compromising situation in that you have one board issuing the special permits and the other board primarily responsible for crafting the bylaw. I can't think of any other situations where, you know, for me, when we do site plan review, you get the feedback from the public, and so you're well informed and you see what the challenges are with the bylaw. And I can understand some people's frustrations with the process occasionally, but I don't think that necessarily means that you shuffle responsibilities amongst boards for what you consider to be a more desirable outcome.
Well, and I think that's all, I mean, and the board has to make a recommendation on the article. So that's all good feedback and good discussion to have as part of that public hearing. You know, and I think what I would say to that is I understand what you're saying, and I think that in that individual instance, it can make some sense, but at the same time, the use table has a number of special permits for uses in it that were determined and appointed by this board in their update of that section 4.1. So it's not uncommon, but I do understand what you're saying, where this is even a little bit more specific and specialized than, say, a special permit for a veterinary hospital, where this board's really just getting a contemporary definition and saying to people, and the zoning board did look at that article and say, here's what we're proposing, is there anything in here that you think is crazy or a red flag? And I think in that article at the same time, in the Summer Street overlay district, special permit on uses was split between the planning board and the zoning board. It was really kind of odd language and the way that they did it. And the planning board said, no, we should give those uses to the zoning board, because that way we're splitting up that responsibility and they're looking at uses. But again, it's not as specialized as solar or even some of the marijuana establishments. And I think that, you're correct in a way that issuing the special permit and doing the site plan on those types of uses is really commingled, and separating them can have some detriment.
Yep. Well, especially for the applicant, because.
Well, correct.
You know,
You're getting two different sets of people giving you two different sets of information about how they
requirements.
want something to put
And-
together.
One board approves, the other board denies.
Yeah.
And then you have that
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
awkward situation to be in.
So.
Yep. And then the boards sue each other. I've been there. It's no fun.
Yeah, most of us have. So the economic development, was that about the newly formed committee?
It was, and I think that my recommendation would be that we include that as part of our reorganization rather than appoint somebody now,
Yep.
because it would just gives a little bit more opportunity for the board to have someone who's going to be
Sure.
a longer-term person.
Now, I should have probably mentioned it, that we've been asked for Agricultural Commission to appoint someone to that who is a business owner. Is that going to be a potential requirement of our appointment here?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
And I expect that part of the logic for that for the Agricultural Commission is to have an agricultural business owner, because what they've identified is focusing the economic development on the basis of agriculture in the community currently. There was a lot of discussion about the Economic Development Committee and what it meant and how it was implemented. And as you'll recall, we've had a lot of discussions about economic development, and the town has resoundingly come down on the side of, we don't know if we want it, which, I think the town does want it. I think that the question isn't, or the answer isn't, we don't want economic development. It's, do we want to work to attract new businesses on a large scale? And I think that a lot of people in town have come down on, we don't want that because it'll change the character of the town. But economic development is also encouraging what we had tonight: small business, reuse of existing space. It's things that we've seen with Pioneer Drive or the Proctors, reuse of their space, the expansion or alteration or supporting businesses that are here already. All of that is economic development. Economic development is just, how do you grow and manage and support your local economy and the people who use it, the people who operate within it, those type of things. So I think that as this committee gets its feet, I think we're going to see, hopefully, a little more discussion about how Lunenburg can do economic development in a way that's appropriate for Lunenburg.
Cool. Thank you. And was there any idea about when that would start to meet?
There is not.
And the Land Acquisition Committee, are they
I
already
believe
meeting?
they're starting to meet already.
Okay.
That's a little more time sensitive than the economic development.
Right. Understandable.
And the master plan, we're waiting to see if we get our money.
Which money is that?
From capital planning.
Okay, so that'll be in the fall.
Well, it'll be, no, we're on the
Oh.
capital plan for May 4th.
That's true, right.
And then we'll be applying for the grant at the end of May.
Right. All right. That wraps that portion up, and I don't see any public for comment. Board comments or concerns?
Move that we adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, 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 aye.
Excellent.
And we don't have 1,000 pieces of paper to sign?